All right, so I'm doing another black screen to capture a discussion that I had um, with a colleague around the gap thing that I'd like to bridge right now between masculine and feminine after release or orgasm has taken place, especially after the man has just done that. Sometimes there can be a an awkwardness or a disconnect if we're not careful. So the best case scenario, just from my tantric expert point of view, is to be mindful around after orgasm happens, we're supposed to rest in that energy and allow kind of like that energy that just got released to kind of like rain back down on us and assimilate. And it's important to not get up, not go on to the next thing right away, but to just sort of absorb the energies that just happened. And so that's where snuggling really comes handy, and even taking a little nap together, where you're, feeling connected after having such a big experience together, to kind of almost like lavish in that connectedness, or bathing in that beautiful connectedness and that beautiful release that just happened, um, relaxing after the pleasure burst, kind of thing. So that's the way it it can look ideally. Well, I came across some experiences where it seems like um, that got a little bit lost, and the person was getting up right away to like take a shower, or like disconnecting right away, like almost as a fear thing, as a like a coping mechanism, because men do have an awkwardness sometimes after they release, where all their that life force just left their body. It's a lot of power and life force, and when it leaves their body, they almost experience like this little death, and it can feel very vulnerable. They feel weak. They feel they're flaccid, as compared to being like um, erect, as an example. And it can feel a little like they can just feel naked or emotional after that experience, and it can make them feel uncomfortable if they're not like good with it yet. And so sometimes the coping mechanism can be to disconnect right away, and like say they got to go to the bathroom, or say they have to go take a shower, or get up and start doing stuff, and that's just not going to be sustainable for a woman to bear. It feels like this huge disconnect happens after they just experience something very intimate, and it can be very jarring. And I remember when it happened to me and I noticed this pattern with this person, I was like, wow, that's a deal breaker, because it feels so awful to just have this abrupt disconnect happen, as if like, well, what, like, where'd you go, like what happened to you, kind of thing. And you know especially after a woman opens herself and gives herself so much that back in the day only was given to someone she was married to have the guy kind of just disconnect that quickly, it can feel like abandonment to the woman, and it can freak her out. It feels awful, and it's not natural. So guys, linger and hang, just relax. You're tired anyway. I think that's part of maybe why it was designed this way, partly so that you're tired and you can just relax and just snuggle and take a nap with the beloved that you just shared that with. Otherwise, I guess, you would typically with your testosterone want to get up and go again, as far as like maybe go start doing something or start working or whatever around the house. And that's just not really in alignment. There needs to be some transition time. So transitions are really key, especially sexually. You really notice them. So you want, the energies to feel like you kind of do have to go through an assimilating experience afterward, because it's such a big experience, that you do integrate a little bit during that rest time. And then you can, slowly merge into the next thing you're going to do for the day or whatever. So that because it's important that that connectedness stay there. If the connectedness is being breached, then it kind of defeats the purpose, at least in the woman's psyche. Then she's likely to go, well, I don't want to do that again, or this isn't safe, or I don't feel honored, in giving myself that much if you're just going to disconnect immediately after. And this is where guys sometimes make the mistake of ghosting or, not calling for days. And I understand that it does take 7 to 10 days for men to rebuild their life force energy again to be at that level that they were before they released. But that doesn't mean that you drop off the face of the earth and, your communication skills need to still be in place, because it's always good to check in with the person the next day and say, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Because otherwise she feels like she's just been abandoned after giving you her most precious gift of herself. So just be aware of that, especially if you're at all in tune with the different attachment types, like the anxious attachment person or the avoidant type. This is a perfect example, probably, where the male is doing the avoidant thing and the female is being anxious. And it's just an awful dynamic. And there's no reason why we can't fix that and make it work and be sustainable. So just bringing your awareness to it so you can navigate this and make some choices around making sure that this is in flow and that it's more natural, because it is important for sure. It's important for men too, but especially for women, it will be hard for them to swallow that pill if you're going to just get up and go and leave right afterwards. It's kind of feels like it's something you guys need to talk about, actually, like, well, what works for you, and kind of thing, because it would be easier if a guy was maybe very aware of how uncomfortable he is with that, and he might say, I noticed that after I sort of come to, that a lot of times I just need to go in my cave and kind of reboot, and I need to go home and have some downtime. And if he states that, that's one thing. It's so much more understandable. But if he's just sort of disappears and ghosts and isn't communicating at all, then the connection gets totally broken. The woman is like, I can't do this again like that. Like, that defeats the point for me. And it just feels like she just got robbed or something, or like a crime just happened. That's how it feels to her many times. And she'll feel taken from or whatever, like you disconnected after you got what you wanted. And it becomes very telling when a man does that, because you're like, wow, was he just after that? And then now that he got it, he's just out of here. So there was really no true connection there, and he was just meeting his own need and using me to do it. So guys, be aware of that. Be careful, because you can be very obvious sometimes, and women pick up on that stuff way more than you do. So it's obvious to her before it's even maybe obvious to you. And it can just make you look bad. You don't want to be that guy. Okay. So it's good to talk about these things. And it's already challenging in our modern society to have the disconnect of one of the two having to leave and go back home. If you're dating and you both have your separate residences, there's already a disconnect that happens there that's challenging. At least it is for the woman and how we're rigged. Because, in days past, we were in the safety of a home that we shared together, in a marriage where we were bonded and secure in a coupleship. And you're asking women to give all that up and just hand it over, and then you leave and abandon them afterwards, a lot of times in these hookup situations. And not all of you men are into that, but I'm just kind of shedding some light on this as to why we're having so many issues around the masculine and feminine connecting in a better way, and the dating scene and just the hookup scene. Like, so many people I talk to have just left the whole dating scene because of these experiences. And it's just gotten almost to where it's like fast food sex or something. And, there's a lot of us deep down really want a true connection. We want to invest in each other and have a real relationship that means something, because you're not going to really get the magic that sex has to offer unless there's a true bond there anyway. The more you invest, the more you receive in return. And if you're just trying to scratch an itch, then that's all you're going to get. And it's just going to be a never ending need to scratch an itch. So, and then it just becomes an addiction instead of like this healthy practice that you share together with intention and consciousness. So there's your words of wisdom for the day as far as how to handle the after orgasm transition period.